nutshell, why I would believe that an object, something physical, can have some good spiritual effect. Why would I believe that? Oh, well, because I believe God did that. Okay, so we can use objects to do physical and spiritual healing. Here's a belief I have that underlies that about creation. Oh, very neat. I found that very neat. Totally understood, even though he and I had just different beliefs. Yeah, the devil was able to go into some herd of pigs and then kill them. Well, that's what he does.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Portal Podcast. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you all for joining us, and special thank you goes out to all of you who continue to support the podcast and continue to spread the word. Always remember, if any of you out there have experiences of your own that you'd like to share, feel free to email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. Again, paranormalportalradio@gmail.com, and you too could be a guest on the show. Everybody, welcome to the show. I am joined today by Father Mike Driscoll, who is not only a Catholic priest, but also an exorcist, and he's here today to talk about blessed and cursed objects. So we're going to get into this. I hope you guys are ready. This is going to be good. Hey, Father Mike, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on again today.
Hey, Brent, good afternoon. Good to be on. Always good to talk to you.
Yeah, likewise. I really had we had such a great conversation last time we talked about demons and exorcisms and stuff, and I know the listeners really enjoyed that as well. But there are, of course, many circles in the paranormal talk about cursed objects, and of course, you, being a Catholic priest, deal with blessings and blessing objects like medallions and such, which you sent to me, and I'm very, very grateful for that. Thank you so much. But
sure.
It is a pretty fantastic idea that you can imbue an object with a blessing.
Yeah. For those, Jewish and Christian beliefs, or even any familiarity with the Bible, very beginning, Old Testament book of Genesis begins God creating, and each day saying, and saw that it was good. So there would be the start that God's creation was good. And then something went wrong. And then, again, I want to keep narrowing down to speak for the Catholics, because I don't want to say all Christians and Jews believe this, but something went wrong. Mm-hmm. And, my belief is, that there are some of the spirits God created chose to become evil, free will choice, and then tempted the first human beings, and they committed some sin. So then there was this, break, a problem, that things weren't all good as they had been. So that's the beginning of the Old Testament, is how God created good, and then the, devil tempting human beings. And it's interesting that the New Testament starts out, like in John's Gospel in the first chapter, says the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, meaning God himself became part of this creation. So kind of to restore what had gone wrong, might think, well, God will just be in his heaven and wave his hand and make everything all right. Instead, he does this very amazing, mysterious thing, become part of the creation and restore it through there, which is ongoing and will culminate at the end of the world. So a lot of, I think, Christians would believe that. And that the Word made flesh and dwelt among us in John's first chapter. So where I would go from there is, so Jesus is started restoring when he came to earth, creation, the physical world. So God was pure spirit, but became part of this physical world. So that is kind of in a nutshell why I would believe that an object, something physical, can have some good spiritual effect. Why would I believe that? Oh, well, because I believe God did that, took flesh in the womb of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and from that time on was restoring the physical world. So to make not to go on all day, Jesus then used physical things. For example, baptism uses water, and we believe that, wow, that really caused a change in a person's soul by pouring water on a person and saying, I baptize you in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, which Jesus said right before he ascended into heaven. He said, go out, told his apostles, go out and teach all the nations and baptize them. So we believe, wow, really, pouring water and saying words can affect a person's soul. Yeah, I do believe that. Mm-hmm. Holy Communion would be a similar thing. When you take bread and wine, this is my body, this is the chalice of my blood. Even something like marriage, a lot of people would share a belief in that yes, this couple actually exchanging words can change them. They are now a married couple. Of course, the intention behind it too.
Right.
That's dependent. So those are ways in which we'd say, yeah, there's this interaction between the spirit world and the physical world, and that's set up by God. To then get to a blessed object, here's a line from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 9. A woman suffering hemorrhages for 12 years came up behind Jesus and touched the tassel on his cloak. Mm-hmm. She said to herself, if only I can touch his cloak, I shall be cured. Jesus turned around and saw her and said, courage, daughter, your faith has saved you. And from that hour, the woman was cured. So very fascinating. There's, again, that interaction. Did the tassel have an effect? Well, it must have. She touched the tassel, but it wasn't just some random tassel she found laying around. This was a Jesus, and as Jesus said, your faith has saved you. So again, it was some intention. It was not like just a lucky object. There's a belief. It's God's will to use physical things to cause, change. In this case, not only change her soul, but a change in her physical condition. Mm-hmm. Same thing happens, by the way, in the Acts of the Apostles. So I pull that one up. St. Paul. This is Acts of the Apostles, chapter 19. So extraordinary were the mighty deeds God accomplished at the hands of Paul, that when face cloths or aprons that touched his skin were applied to the sick, their diseases left them, and the evil spirits came out of them. Mm. So we see that kind of extended from what Jesus healing to St. Paul. Now, of course, Jesus also healed just by a word and drove out demons just by a word. Sure. So those things aren't necessary, but sometimes used. I like, Brent, when you often say there are no experts in this. If you were to say, well, exactly why, and try to pin me down, I'd say, I don't know. I do believe this is literally gospel truth, but I can't explain to you exactly why Jesus did this or that every time. Sure. But there's the basis of where we get as a Catholic Church. Oh, okay, so we can use objects to do physical and spiritual healing. Not every time, I can't guarantee you, but I do believe that God does work that way. And what I don't believe in is superstition, in the sense of, like I said, it's not that this woman thought, well, tassels are lucky. If I can find a tassel somewhere, that will heal me. No, she specifically wanted one that Jesus was, had somehow using something about his power working through this physical object. Mm. So here's a line from when I blessed holy water using a ritual of the Catholic Church. It's very old, but the age doesn't really matter for me. For a Catholic, it's the fact that Jesus established a church, and so that church has his authority. So it's more a matter of authority rather than this. It's not like, wow, you got to get the spell right, or or that it's very old. Those things, aren't the power. The power, I believe, is from God and God, the Son Jesus Christ, in establishing a church. So. But just to give, let's see if I've got that somewhere. We bless. Typically, the old tradition is to bless salt and then water and sprinkle the salt in it. So just those sentences on each of those. Almighty and everlasting God, we humbly implore thee in thy immeasurable kindness and love to bless and sanctify the salt, which you did create and give to the use of mankind, so that it may become a source of health for the minds and bodies of all who make use of it, and may rid whatever it touches or sprinkles of all uncleanness, and protect it from every assault of evil spirits. So you can see what blessed salt, well, that sounds, it's a prayer, and just saying, God, wherever I sprinkle this salt, will you give your blessings and drive away evil spirits? Mm-hmm. The one for the water is similar. And this one specifically uses the word exercise, not exercise as in, but exercise with an O, so driving away the devil. I think this is neat because it addresses the water, like speaking to the water. O water, creature of God, I exercise you in the name of God the Father Almighty, and in the name of Jesus Christ, His Son, our Lord, and in the power of the Holy Spirit. I exercise you so that you may put to flight all the power of the enemy and be able to root out and supplant that enemy and his apostate angels through the power of our Lord Jesus Christ. So again, water, when I'm explaining this, sometimes the people will say, and it's also helpful for vampires. Like that.
Absolutely.
But no, what we're asking is God, and go again, not reading the whole prayer, but it keeps just going on, asking God to give His blessing. God, please, will you give your blessings to wherever I sprinkle this water or this salt or whatever the, so you don't mind one more. There's a cool thing about blessing a bell for a church.
Sure.
When it is tolled and rung, the faithful may be invited to the house of God. And it goes on, and its sound, let all evil spirits be driven afar. Let thunder and lightning and hail and storm be banished. Let the power of your hand put down the evil powers of the air. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Part of the cool thing of being a priest, you do these really cool blessings. It sounds like something almost out of some weird TV show or something. But no, we really do ask God to do those things, to God, wherever I sprinkle this water, will you please? So there's nothing magical or in my mind or superstitious about the water. It's
right.
Just I ask God, wherever I sprinkle this, will you give your blessing? Do I have to use holy water? Nope. Can ask God to do that without water. Like I said, it just kind of comes back to, well, Jesus worked that way sometimes.
Yeah.
We see it in St. Paul. So yeah, we keep up that tradition.
It is interesting. That the one thing that I would ask you as a priest is that when the woman reached out to the cloak to touch the tassel, then she was healed. But do you think that it's a concert in terms of cooperation or acknowledgement on behalf of the woman? In other words, he said that your faith has healed you, but had she not had that faith and again touched the same cloak, would she not have been healed? Probably not. But
probably not, the way it just sounds right there, like you just said. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there does seem to be like an acknowledgement on not only the fact that in this case Jesus was there and had proclaimed himself, or others had proclaimed him as the Son of God and walking among men and the divine in flesh, but that she believed that and therefore, in other words, I mean that faith, I think, is incredibly important in all of this because it does create, I don't know, for lack of a better term, almost a conduit, like a plumbing of sorts, I see this wellspring, I'm going to connect to it so that I can draw the water or, whatever, in the spirit, that faith is such an integral part with these things. Would you agree?
Definitely. Definitely. And also, prayer is a fascinating thing that we believe that, a lot of people would believe of all kinds of different faiths. Yes, I can actually pray for you and it can have some effect. Wow, that's very mysterious. And it is very mysterious and very neat. And so, you and I know each other somewhat well, but I don't know all your beliefs. And, we learn those little by little as we talk. But so, like you said, I sent a blessed medal. I don't know exactly what your beliefs on there, but I do believe because I had said a blessing and a prayer that wherever this medal is, keep this person's, may God give his blessings and drive away any evil spirits. That, my intention is, and prayer to God was, hey, whatever Brent's beliefs are, I can still ask God to do those things for you.
Right. Yeah.
So definitely faith is important, but we've also got this mysterious unity of the human race that for those who believe, we can help each other in some mysterious spiritual way through prayer and that kind of thing.
The box. You opened it. We came.
It's just a puzzle box!
Oh no. It is a means to summon us.
Who are you?
Explorers in the further regions of experience. Demons to some, angels to others.
It was a mistake. I didn't mean to help it. It was a mistake. You can
I got to tell you, I'm using social media all the time to promote the shows and to keep in touch with people and ad nauseum. But I see hundreds, like literally maybe close to 100 every day. I need prayers, prayer warriors. Please send your prayers, please. And all of these people, clicking or sending messages they're acknowledging that. And I think that that's powerful, that people are coming together to do that. So
that's neat that you hear all those, Brent.
Yeah. And I always make sure to say something or to click something like the huggy heart or whatever, to let them know that, I'm sending my love, my prayers, and I hope it helps. But I think that is true, that certainly we have the ability to send to somebody, but do you think that it becomes magnified then when I don't know. I mean, it's just subjective as can be, but if a person has that same faith and then others, administer their faith to it, that it may compound it or something. I don't know. It's just. Yeah,
I think so. Jesus said something about where 2 or 3 are gathered, in my name, they're in the midst.
Right.
So, yeah, only, like you said, no experts on a lot of areas. I think only God can sorts that out and knows exactly why he does what he does and why he does it. But he certainly encouraged, biblically encouraged prayer for one another. So we do that, trusting that it does have an effect, and that when he doesn't answer prayer, it's not because he's kind of mean or messing with us. He's got his own overarching plan and reasons. But certainly part of that plan and reasons is, yes, pray for one another. As Jesus, love your enemy and pray for your persecutor even.
Mm-hmm. So with blessed objects like the medallions, and with that, they do, by virtue of that faith, then have I don't know, I don't want to say a power, but they do have maybe it is a power. Maybe that's the best word I could use. But because what I'm thinking about, there was an experiment, I think, done by a gentleman in Japan or somewhere in Asia, where he would take photographs of water as it crystallized, and he did these emotional experiments where it was some of the drops he would just ignore them and let them crystallize on their own, and others he did this experiment where he cast all these negative thoughts and ideas to this water as it froze, and then he with love with another one, and there was a profound difference in the beauty and organization of these crystallizations of the water as it turned to ice, depending on which emotion was used.
Wow, that'd be really something to see replicated. And wow, that's something.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely profound, but it does seem to demonstrate that we do have an interaction with the world around us in that way, and profoundly so, perhaps.
Yeah, and again, I'm just careful to say, yeah, absolutely. We could call it a power that something is blessed has, but I always like to make clear the distinction, the belief in a blessed thing, that I believe that power comes from God, that
sure,
we've asked something of him, and he's, as opposed to, and I don't want to insult any of your listeners who are of a more natural, nature-centered thing or something, but of certain things, I'm not even sure what I'm trying to say. Just something, I don't want to insult by saying a lucky rabbit's foot. I don't know, maybe some people believe in that, or I don't know if that's just an old story or something. But
sure,
again, like the one with the tassel, it was something about God. It had some meaning for, rather than I'm going to look around and find a tassel,
right, and
that will heal me. No, it was something that's connected with God.
Sure.
So I definitely always stick with that. I once had talked with a guy who was an American Indian or Native American, whichever, people prefer different ones. And I knew they had like certain, I think there were 4 herbs, sage and a few other things. I'm uncomfortable with people who just kind of like, well, it's sage, therefore it's got some inherent thing to drive away. I don't believe that. But he had, and I kind of heard this. He said, well, that's part of our creation story. And he told me a little bit like, now that, even though I don't share those beliefs, but I totally get that it was, you just didn't find why sage and not some other plant. He said, well, because here's a belief I have that underlies that about creation. Oh, very neat. I found that very neat. Totally understood, even though he and I had just different beliefs. So, yeah, I guess I look for something deeper than just a random thing. I don't know. Right. A random thing having some power. I guess I'm looking for, where did it get that? Right. He told me where he got. Oh, cool. That's where he believed it got that power. Yeah,
sure. But just in exploring this even deeper, and again, I don't mean to put you on the spot at all, but would you agree that the source of all that is was the divine creation? I mean, and by saying that, what I'm saying is that so for anything to exist in our world and experience, it had to have come from this divine source, the creator, God, Yahweh, Allah, however he's known. And so in and of that, would it not be, I don't know how I'm trying to say this, but would it not be appropriate then to say that, anything that I touch has the presence of God in it, and, to maybe provide a conduit to the source? I don't know. Does that make any sense, or am I just babbling?
Yeah, I mean, we have, I shouldn't use the word generic, but we do have a blessing where it just says, I've got this whole book of blessings, cool old blessings, and goes back way, before the printing press. And then there's kind of the one that says, just for any object, just bless this object, may God bless this the one, this whatever it is, and the one he used to be blessed in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Yeah, that's good. Here's a line from St. Paul. This is from a letter to the Romans, chapter 8. Creation was made subject to futility, not of its own accord, but because of the one who subjected it, in hope that creation itself would be set free from slavery to corruption and share in the glorious freedom of the children of God. We know that all creation is groaning in labor pains even until now. So bottom line, and even Jesus in John's gospel once in chapter 14 even calls the devil the prince of this world. So but he's talking about overthrowing. So there's some recognition that absolutely, but he said, God created everything for those who believe in a creator, a God, an intelligent creator. Yes, created everything, and it's all his. Something went wrong, we'd say, a lot of us would say, he gave free will to certain creatures, angels and human beings, and they did wrong by it, and that caused damage. But he's not just saying, oh, wow, well, you're on your own. No, he has this whole mysterious plan of taking it back. So absolutely everything has the capability, I would say, of being that conduit. Everything can be blessed, and it was in some way before the devil and Adam and Eve sinned. So, sure. And God has his own way of bringing it back. Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting take. I appreciate that insight. And I guess that makes it make more sense to me in that, everything has the resonance of that divine spark, but it also maybe it's not actualized in its current state, and by blessing it, it brings through or calls the power of the divine into it and acts as a barrier or shield or something to that effect. I'm just, this is such an incredible discussion, because it's, again, a lot of times in any faith, it is a collection of ideas and words, but then when you break it down and you start drilling into it, it becomes actually, to me, more beautiful, because it's not just these, old world examples or these old stories, but they become relevant now, and they come, it breathes a new life into it, I guess. You know what I mean?
And there's something to be said for things that stand the test of time, so
Sure.
Like for me, for Catholic, or for like this, the Native American guy I was talking to that, I guess there's the danger, as people say, you don't want to, what is that? Doing things, well, that's the way we've always done it. Okay, I can see how that's not always a good thing, but also not to be too quick to throw out things. I saw another line that said, don't just presume your ancestors were fools, because foolishness is hereditary. So I don't want to just immediately throw out something saying, well, that's old, and it may or may not be valuable because it's old. So tradition is kind of the test of time. What things seem valuable to people, and that kind of thing.
Yes. Now you and I were talking a little bit before we recorded, but conversely, then cursed objects are believed to be imbued with the negative, or with the with the darkness or evil or whatever. And what is your opinion on those things?
Yeah, so in Catholic teaching, I've given you pretty much all. We don't have a lot of teaching even on the blessed things, just kind of what I said, giving it to asking God to, it belongs to God, and asking Him to take dominion over it and help us through it, both physically and spiritually. We have even less on anything cursed. I don't really see any cursed objects. Hope someone will correct me if I'm not thinking of something in the Bible that would talk specifically about a cursed object. One of the closest when I come, and I can't remember if you and I talked about this, if I brought this up when was on the show last time, but the most detailed usually the exorcism Jesus did, he just is out with you, or doesn't even say that. It just says that he drove out demons. There's one, it's in Mark and Luke, it's in several of the Gospels. I'll read you Mark's Gospel, chapter 5. It's about, it's a little bit longer, so I won't read it all, but of Jesus driving out demons, but it goes into more detail, and a man is living amongst the tombs of Gerasene, and no one can tame him. He breaks chains. Jesus asks, what is your name? Legion is my name. There are many of us. Then two things here that maybe touch on what we're talking about, and with some of your other topics. It says he pleaded earnestly with Jesus not to drive him away from that territory. Like, wow, that's the only time we see that. So for some reason, these demons didn't want to be driven away from the territory. No idea why. For some reason, they liked it there. I don't like anything. They're demons. But for some reason, they had some attachment to that territory, that area, that land, whatever translation we use from the Aramaic that Jesus would have spoken for. So something there that's not really a cursed object, but a place. In Catholic Church, we do believe that a devil can be attracted to or attached to a place. In this case, it's a graveyard, maybe because the devil likes the fear and horror we have of death. I don't know. I think in my belief, I don't really believe in ghosts in the sense of human spirits coming back and kind of just wandering. Okay. But I do believe when people, the things that they see and whatever, and it often seems to be attached to kind of a bad place. This is what I go back to. Probably the devil messing with people, and he likes to hang around a place where bad things have happened. But that's part of that's just my own belief. Catholic Church would say, hey, we don't really know why the devil would attach, or like this line. Why would he be attached there? The other thing that happens in this, the devil's pleaded, this is just bizarre. The devil's pleaded, there was a large herd of swine feeding there on the hillside. They pleaded with Jesus, send us into the swine, let us enter them. And he let them. Unclean spirits came out, entered the swine. The herd rushed down a steep bank in the sea and were drowned. Like, what is that about? Well, he's destructive. But it does show that not that animals are objects, but they're not human. So, the devil was able to go into some herd of pigs and then kill them. Well, that's what he does. So back to our curse thing. I can't give you a definition or a Catholic teaching on it. I'll get to this from the rite of exorcism, but the devil does apparently like to mock God. There's a line from the book of the prophet Isaiah. If you're wondering where do we get that word Lucifer, it's often translated morning star, but this is Isaiah 14, how you have fallen from the heavens, O morning star. In your heart you said, I will scale the heavens. I will be like the Most High God. So the devil, being an intelligent being, knows he can't be God. He can't create the universe. He can't create anything. But he can destroy and he can mock. So I think of cursing as a mockery of a blessing.
Okay.
So the devil kind of deciding to do his evil through, so if I'm a person who curses an object or something, that then the devil kind of to mess with me and to mess with others, and who knows what rules he has to follow and what God allows and doesn't allow the devil to do. I do believe there's some kind of, that God gave angels some power by nature, and even the fallen ones still have some of that power that he has not yet taken away from them. But anyway, so cursed object, bottom line is more danger to the person who's messing with such a doing the cursing, who, again, back to the woman's faith healed her. Okay, now if I'm some kind of person who's trying to do an evil thing to you, and I'm going to use some object to do it, well, it's more dangerous to me. It may or may not have some effect on you, but for me to be developing a relationship with evil, asking some power or thinking I have some power by certain words to imbue this with evil and make it do bad things to you, I'm the one who's damaging my soul more. I may or may not have any effect on you.
Good point.
You solved the box. We came. Now you must come with us. Taste our pleasures.
Please, go away, leave me alone.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Closest we have to some kind of teaching in Catholic teaching, our rituals are also kind of a source of teaching, and so there's the closest we come. This is from the rite of exorcism. There's some instructions to the exorcist. He shall command the devil to tell whether he is detained in that body, and here you get different translations from the Latin. Works of magic. It's usually translated as communicating with evil spirits, or evil signs, which would usually translate like an evil ritual, or evil instruments. And that one is pretty clear that it means some kind of a small object. How do I know that? Because the next line is pretty disgusting. And if the one possessed has taken this by mouth, he should be made to vomit them. If he's concealed them on his person, he should expose them, and when discovered, they must be burned. So there's something that's the most specific thing I can give you from a Catholic source, saying, yeah, we believe that things can be cursed. A person can actually it can be a means of getting possessed, and the exorcist should make the person vomit them and burn them.
Wow.
Find them.
That's incredibly interesting, because in the paranormal fields, oftentimes there is the belief that certain items, and it's just random items, but some items seem to have attachments to them. In other words, that upon a person acquiring an item and bringing it into their home, suddenly, their cereal bowl is moving, or the furniture is changing position, or, just a bunch of odd strangeness is going on. And sometimes it can be just discerned down to the point where you brought something in your house. And so the suggestion is then to remove any new items you brought into your house and one by one reintroduce them. And whenever you hit, the activity again, then you'll know that item was the one, and you got to get rid of it or get it taken care of, get it blessed or exorcised if there. Does the Catholic Church have an exorcism of items, or no? Is it just people?
No, people and places.
And places, okay.
Yeah. That's part of the exorcism ritual. It's kind of three parts of the instructions, which I just quoted you from. And then there's the exorcism of a possessed person. And then there's a short section at the end for a place, which, haunted type, house type place. We just say, sometimes it's translated infested, but just something about a place.
Okay.
But not specifically for an object. We would probably bless an object, or as this says, or burn it. Kind of interesting, burning, because if you have something, a sacred object that you want to get rid of, it's considered respectful to burn it too. Sort of like, how we consider a flag to be, it's disrespectful for someone to, stomp on a flag and burn it. But isn't the proper way to get rid of a flag to burn it, right? So that can be done.
I think it's,
and we're back to the intention. Why am I burning this flag? Well, because I have great respect for it. I don't want to throw it in a garbage can. I'm going to burn it respectfully versus I'm going to burn it because I hate it. Isn't there? I think those
right.
are something like that. So we do. I guess I've gone astray, but we do. A way to get rid of a sacred object is to burn it.
Sure.
Or like this says. But anyway, yeah. So that's about as much as I can say about a cursed object. Sure. It's the devil, maybe working through something, and it's more of a danger to the person who's doing it. And one exorcist told me, he said, don't give too much, and tell people, don't give too much credence. Don't give more power to these things than they have. We wouldn't want to think that it's possible for someone who's got some evil intent to go down the street and curse every house.
Right.
So we got to burn down a neighborhood. Well, wait a minute. Why don't we say a prayer, and ask God to protect these places? And I like to think the prayer is going to be more powerful. But having said that, here I am reading you from the Rite of Exorcism that, this object can be. I guess this one, that's fascinating what you said. I've heard those stories too. Never come across that. I don't know if you have, Brent, about like an object that makes things start going wrong and being able to narrow it down. This would be a sign, I guess, that, wow, this has been narrowed down. If this person admits, I had a cursed thing, and they've got it on them, and then to get rid of it by burning it. Yeah,
and it's certainly there's a whole fascination currently in the paranormal world and of researchers and stuff with like haunted dolls, for instance. These dolls that seem to embody these discarnate spirits of whatever origin, and sometimes, of course, they can be quite negative and horrible, like the Annabelle doll, for one, which was, I think the source story was used to make the movie The Conjuring and stuff, but essentially it was this Raggedy Ann doll that was causing horrible things to happen in this house, and it was removed by the Warrens. I don't know if you're familiar with the Warrens, but Ed and Lorraine Warren were these demonologists and researchers back mostly in the 60s and 70s, I think, was when they were most active, but into the 80s, and they took in these objects that were cursed or haunted and such, and there's still a Warren museum of the things that they collected. Yeah, a little familiar with them, and with two of the Conjuring movies. I don't want to disparage them. I think one or both of them are deceased. I know. I think they said they were the Catholic faith. That wouldn't have been something I would recommend to someone who's doing something in that field, that will just hang on to those objects and make a museum of them. Right. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to disparage them. Maybe that's not what they did. Maybe there's some whatever. There's a whole story, but that's not just something I would be recommending for something that had been that I really believed had some evil thing. Yeah, is that dolls thing? Is that just because they're a little bit inherently creepy, like clowns are? For my Catholic faith, there wouldn't be anything inherently more dangerous about a doll than any other object. Sure. Right. Is that just because they're creepy a little bit sometimes? Well, I think they are personally too. But I'll tell you, I've tried to trace the whole source of that, and what I've found is that there's at least some suggestions. Nothing I've been able to confirm, but that the original use of dolls in the ancient world was not as children's playthings, but as vessels for spirits. And so, I'd read that too. Now that you mention it, that goes way back. Right. And so, and it's also why the Amish won't allow faces on their dolls, because they believe that if a face is put on a doll, then it becomes enticing to a negative energy or demon. So, I'm sorry, what face did you say that was? The Amish.
No kidding.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I've stumbled across that, again, unverified. I can't say, well, for sure this is the case. Yeah. These are just things that I've found on my research. Now, again, some people say that that's more hyperbole than anything. Other things I know in some magical practices, there's the idea of a poppet, and some people think a poppet is one of the sources for dolls, and that is apparently a magical practice that was used in order to make an effigy of yourself, and then kind of like the whole voodoo doll idea, but the idea is that it becomes imbued to be a shield. So if anything negative, any evil is targeting you or something, it'll target the doll and not you. And so,
okay.
Yeah.
You know, I think the first time I heard or saw something with a voodoo doll, there wasn't. I think you're old enough to remember, Brent. I think it was an old Underdog episode where there was a Simon Bar Sinister, someone using a voodoo doll or something. I can't remember.
Sure.
You could Google that, I bet, and find it. But, yeah, you know how that's part of the whatever.
Right.
Has reached urban folklore or whatever.
Sure.
The voodoo doll thing. I don't know what the real voodoo beliefs are in that. But you're right that I have read that, and that the voodoo doll, I'm sure, is certainly some type of example of that going way back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to say.
You know, I thought too, I don't know, probably ending pretty soon, about, again, the danger more for the person who's developing a relationship with evil, or I think it's dangerous. This is what I have against and the church against the Ouija board. Well, it's a piece of wood and a piece of plastic. Come on, what's the danger? No danger in wood and plastic.
Right.
Oh, you're going to use wood and plastic and try and communicate with some spirit whose origin you don't know? And what? No. I believe in prayer. I believe I can talk to spirits anytime I want. I can talk to God. I can pray for you. I ask an angel for help. But to use a board and plastic, I don't think any good spirit's going to be using that.
Yeah.
And there was a line I read. This was from, I think this was from a C.S. Lewis novel, not one of his Narnia ones, but another one. He said something like that the devil breaks his tools after he's used them. So kind of scary, like, don't be a tool of the devil. Don't be a tool of evil. He'll come back and,
Yeah.
He's not looking out for your good. Yeah. He's not doing this because he likes you and wants to help you.
Yeah. And that's the scary part of all of it, is that I think whenever people are dabbling with things that they just can't possibly understand, there's, of course, the inherent danger that, especially like you say with Ouija boards. And I think Ouija boards are extra dangerous because the idea behind it is that you are creating yourself as a conduit. You have to be touching that thing, and you have to be calling out and asking something to come essentially through you. And I think, God, that's just like the fast track to oppression or possession,
Yeah, right. The kind of the self-centered thing, and just I guess it's kind of a mystery to me why, when those who believe in prayer, that I can talk to God, I can pray for you. As I said, I can believe I can ask an angel for help. Why I would want to mess with something like that? Do I think a good spirit is going to? Now, so they might come back and say, well, you just said you think a good spirit is going to work through the tassel of Jesus' cloak or through holy water or a metal. True, but those are always a request. I'm always asking God, will you please? Yeah. I'm totally acknowledging God has the authority. I'm just asking him something. It's not a matter of me trying to control things. It's a exact opposite thing. God, you are in control here. Like those blessings I read you. It's a recognition of God, Almighty God and Father. You're in control. Here's as one of your creatures. Here's what I ask of you. Right. So it's always asking and recognizing God has authority. God is all good. I'm not trying to say, hey, I wonder if the devil would be the mockery, the sort of similar, but not, because it's one, I want to be a little independent from God. I want a little power on my own.
Right.
Maybe if I do this Ouija board or this or that thing, maybe I can control things a little bit on my own without God's power.
Good point. Yeah, I guess that is right. I mean, certainly power seems to be the common denominator in a lot of things, unfortunately, in our world.
Oh gosh, isn't it? Yeah, and including our,
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if I look back at myself like, yeah, the times I've really met, yes, because I wanted something for myself or whatever, didn't acknowledge God's, dominion, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tell you what, this has been an absolutely fascinating discussion, Father Mike, and I really appreciate not only the fact that you come on here and talk about these things, but I love the manner in which you do it, because you're not. I think a lot of people hear religion and they think, oh, here comes the judgment. But in every way, whenever you've presented ideas and stuff on the show, you've always been very, very kind and very open and warm, and I appreciate that, especially because I think there's a lot of diverse ideas out there of all this stuff, but I love the fact that you come on and you're just like, well, this is what we think and this is why we think it, without being like, and the rest of you guys are going to burn,
Well, thanks. Yeah, one thing is because that is part of my faith, is that I'm just very clear on that. He'll judge. He knows, only God knows, the heart and mind, and knows where everyone is and what they. And the other thing is, our conversations, private and on the second show we've done now, and on the chat room in YouTube. It's been very neat, because everyone is like that with everyone else. Yeah. Whether it be about things like this, devils, or whether it be about a UFO or a Bigfoot. I mean, I have my doubts about those things, but I don't get in there and say, well, you're an idiot, you believe in it. Well, no, I need to hear what they believe, and I don't have to share every belief, and they certainly don't share every one of my beliefs. But no, you've got you and those in the chat room, they're very people interested in hearing each other's opinions, and oh, that's neat. Oh, I didn't know that people believe that, or I don't believe that, but I'm glad to get to share my belief too. Yeah,
absolutely, and that's something that I can't take a lot of credit for, but I've always encouraged, is that people understand that there aren't experts, there just aren't, as you mentioned, but I just think that everybody's ideas are just as valid as anyone else's at this point for a lot of this stuff, because we just don't know what's going on. But, at least to hear each other and have a dialogue and just come to at least an understanding, like I know where you stand, and I think that's wonderful. But again, your delivery is so kind and welcoming, and I really appreciate our conversations.
Oh, thanks. I do too. No, it's been, once again, a good conversation.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time again today to come on, and anytime you want, we'll have you back and we'll dive back into it.
All right, thanks. I'll probably give you hello either Wednesday or over the weekend in the YouTube chat.
Sounds perfect.
Get out!
Guys, thank you so much for joining us here on tonight's show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please feel free to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Paranormal Portal Radio, as well as finding us on Twitter. We're on Twitter at Paranormal Portal, PORTL, and we'd love to have you stop by our YouTube page and subscribe and check out our shows there. We got hundreds of shows, Journeys into the Paranormal Portal, so I hope you'll check it out, guys. We're over there at youtube.com/Paranormal Portal, so hope to see you guys soon. We'll be back, of course, for more podcasts in the coming days. So we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can.
Tool of the devil.